This episode is brought to you by Indie Film Hustle TV, the world's first streaming service dedicated to filmmakers, screenwriters, and content creators. Learn more at indiefilmhustle.tv. I'd like to welcome to the show Hasan Oswald, man. Thank you so much for being on the show, brother.
Of course, Alex. Longtime fan. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man. Thank you for being on the show. And you are the first filmmaker that I am interviewing from not only the other side of the world, but can you tell the audience where you're at right now, sir?
Sure. I'm in northern Iraq, the Kurdish region of Iraq.
Vacationing.
Vacationing. Yes, vacationing. It's really beautiful this time of year. 105 at sunrise. It's peak. It's awesome. No, I'm working on my next project. And I've been working on it on and off for the last year, and I came back in February for what was supposed to be a 3-week wrap trip, and going on 4 months with really no end in sight, as all the airports are shut, all the borders are shut. So yeah, that's where I'm calling from.
You're basically trapped in Hotel Baghdad, if you will.
Yeah,
you could check in, but you just can't check out.
Can't check out.
So before we get to your movie, how did you enter the business, man?
How I got in. So my film background is I'm definitely a new face in the business. I went to something, I don't know if you've heard of, it's a Waldorf school. It's kind of like Montessori based. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I went to Waldorf school in upstate New York, just right outside the city actually. And, you're not allowed to watch movies, no media. So my whole childhood, I watched very few movies. We didn't have a TV in our house. And when we finally got one, I remember when my parents were out, I used to watch TV, and then I'd put an ice pack on the TV because they would come home and feel it to see if I'd been watching TV. So that's how little exposure I had to movies. So I wasn't this movie buff who, had a camera, his dad's camera, and he learned how to edit on 2 VCR. That wasn't me. Mm-hmm. I remember I was allowed to watch one movie a month, and we used to go to this video store, Giant Video. That was before like Hollywood Video. Mom and Pop owned little place, and every time I'd go in there with these big ideas, and I'm going to watch this new movie, and 9 times out of 10, I'd come home with Waterworld, and I have no idea why, but Waterworld was my go-to, and I just absolutely loved it. And I still love it. So I didn't have any kind of a background in film. I would go to Costco, and they had all the TVs lined up, and my mom would go shopping, and I'd get my TV in there. And it was really a precious wow. finite resource for me. So I didn't have that background. And after I went to school at Villanova, mm-hmm. studied creative. I was an English major, but studied creative writing and had some journalism minor or concentration. And so I always had an interest in storytelling. I wrote a good bit of novel, novella, short story, that kind of stuff. Never any screenwriting, but I was always fascinated with storytelling. And when I graduated, I had no idea what I was going to do. I applied and was accepted to work on a cattle ranch in Australia. They still have these. You can still be a cowboy in Australia. Mm-hmm. 1 million cattle ranches. And then my visa got messed up, so kind of on a whim, I moved to Thailand to become an English teacher. I just had no idea what I wanted to do, and here's Blair Witch time. So I had no idea.
So for people, for people listening, since he's in Iraq, there are power surges or outages So every few minutes, but everything is on a Jenny, so we won't lose his connection. But if you're watching, he will go Blair Witch.
Exactly. So only my face is lit up about every 15 minutes. Yes. So in Thailand. I went to be an English teacher, so I wanted to do this kind of European gap year. I'd spent a lot of time abroad as a child, and I wanted to do this kind of gap year and find out what I was doing. Mm-hmm. Really, film was not a big part of my life. I loved and love Love Actually. Like, until then, I was certainly not watching old classics. If I was in the theater, if it was
You're not sitting there
teenage
watching
boy.
like Kurosawa and Scorsese.
Oh no,
and
who? No way. Uh, so we, as a teacher in Thailand, we would take a lot of trips, and I mean, it was an incredible life we lived there, and we had a GoPro, and so we would film everything, and this is right about the time where you could get 1080 on, I think I had an Android, so really in your pocket you had a bunch of good resources for pretty cheap. And so all my friends had these GoPros and cameras, and so we take trips, weekend trips to Vietnam, bus trips to Laos, and we'd just gather material. And then at the end, we were like, all right, what are we going to do with this? And so I was like, all right, I think I can do this on iMovie. I can do something. So I remember I laid a track down. It was Moby Play, which is got to be the most overused.
Most sampled album in history.
Yes, and it was glorious. So it was that Paradise song from the beach.
I know.
The beach. Yeah,
I know. It's in my head right now. I don't have the rights to it, and I can't play it on the show, but I have it in my head, sir.
Yeah. So the beach, the film The Beach with Leo, that was the soundtrack. So that's why we used it. And I remember cutting to the music and loving it. Like, I thought, this is really cool. I mean, it was trash footage. I mean, trash, but we liked it. It was, we were creating something. So we were just doing that on the side and teaching. I had given up my journalism roots as well. I was through and through an English teacher. I was teaching second grade and I fell in love with my class. So I thought I applied and got accepted to Columbia to do my master's in education. I was going to come back to New York City and become an English teacher, and that was my career. About a year and a half in, we were set to renew our contracts, and instead, my friends and I, we quit or didn't renew our contracts and just traveled throughout the region. We tried to go by train from Southeast Asia all the way to Europe. So there's trains all the way up, and then we took the Trans-Siberian across, and we recorded the whole thing. When I got back to Europe, I had a bunch of new footage, and I edited. I called it 18 countries in 18 minutes, and it was an 18-minute video that went on Vimeo, and it made the front page, or a front page. I think the travel front page of Reddit. 10,000 views, I think, which was insane. I still can't imagine why 10 people watched it. And it's still one of my favorite things I've ever created. It was the first thing I ever created. And just the feedback from that and the kind of the creative process that went into it, I fell in love with, I guess, then editing, and I still had no idea how to shoot. But because I taught myself editing through YouTube tutorials, just books, podcasts. I could edit. I just couldn't shoot at all, but I knew I could teach myself to shoot. And of course, that's when I found Rebel Without a Crew. And I thought, oh, wow, like this can be done. And of course, it was stupid travel videos. But those travel videos turned into kind of my education. And so I didn't go home when I got to Europe and do my master's in education. I stayed in Barcelona and started doing these freelance gigs, totally fake it till you make it. I remember I went to different hostels, and I'm still teaching part-time at an international school in Barcelona at this time to kind of make ends meet. But I remember I went to a hostel and I said, oh, I make these promo videos. Can I do one for you? Because each hostel in Barcelona, they've got a party night, and I don't know. So they said, sure, just send over your reel. I was like, my what? So I remember doing my first kind of rip cut off of different people's videos on YouTube. Oh, I mean, that will never see the light of day again.
Of course.
And then I did another kind of similar thing with my friend had an apartment complex he used to rent to students, and I remember pulling my camera on a string across marble countertop for my pan shot. So that was kind of the genesis of of how I got into film, and
that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I always love hearing these stories because everyone has a different path in, and obviously you found your path and kind of meandered around literally continents, trying to find this out. So let's get to your film Higher Love. Tell me about Higher Love and how it came about.
Sure. So I guess just kind of a brief synopsis. It follows a man named Daryl Gant in Camden, New Jersey. Daryl's a factory man from Camden, and his long-term girlfriend, Nani, or Danitza, she is a heroin addict on the streets of Camden, and how she pays for that habit through various, she lives and works the streets. And she becomes pregnant, and so the first half of the film follows his obstacles, his journey, while every morning she leaves the house, runs away to Camden, and it's his journey to find her over 2 years. And then once the baby is born, a different journey begins. So it's, on the surface, it's this search for the love of his life. And as he tries to protect his unborn baby. But it also, each obstacle that Daryl faces, it's kind of an obstacle that a lot of these cities face. It's not just Camden. It's, Flint, Michigan, Cleveland, these post-industrial cities that the American dream is kind of crashed and burned in. So that's kind of what the movie is about. And it came about kind of in an interesting way. So if we backtrack a little bit, I still was doing travel films, but they were kind of turning into more interview based. I remember they getting darker, and the people we're filming these travel films for were like, we don't want to listen to this Sri Lankan lady about losing her family in the tsunami.
Oh Jesus!
Like we want to hear about the best beaches in Sri Lanka. So already the disconnect was beginning. So at the end of filming that travel show, it was my now ex-girlfriend and I. We both things were coming to an end. So it was time to do something different. And so at the end of that travel show, I went to Lesbos, Greece, where so that's where the Syrian refugees they kept drowning in the Mediterranean, doing that crossing into Europe in their rafts. And so I went there with more skills than I had and better cameras, but still very new. And this was kind of my first documentary. And I joined a rescue squad there, the ones who pull the rafts and the people from the ocean. So I joined a rescue squad there and did a 15-minute short and came back, edited it myself, colored it myself, figured out that color was a thing. So learned how to do that.
Yeah. And
I thought, all right, here we go. Like, I have a 15-minute doc. This is good. I don't know, 700 views maybe. That was going to be my big ticket. And I'm out of money. I don't know if this film thing is going to be, if this is my way.
Right. But then you decide to go to do a very not uplifting documentary in the streets of Camden.
Right. So, how that came around was maybe a month after this film's published, the refugee film was published, Stephen Fry tweets it. And then a few more, Neil Gaiman, the author, tweets it. A few bigger names tweet it. And then I get, 100,000 views,
that's amazing.
20,000 views. And from that, so National Geographic saw that, saw a tweet, and they call me, and I'm living in Boulder at the time with my girlfriend. And so Goldcrest Films was contracted by Nat Geo, so they're making a film for Nat Geo. And the director, Nick Quested, and Sebastian Junger, they call me, and or the assistant calls me and says, "Hey, can you come do the? The director would like to meet you." And so I'm thinking, "Oh, great, this is an interview." So I get up, packed up. And then right before I leave, I email them. I say, "Hey, I'm just making sure we're on for tomorrow." And the interview's in New York, so we're on for tomorrow. No response. So I'm like, all right, I got to go. So I just fly to New York on Miles, get out of the airport, go to the interview spot, and I'm just thinking like, I don't think I have an interview. And so I go up, and like 5 minutes before they respond to my email, they're like, yeah, he's still planning on meeting you. And from there, within a week, we hit it off. And within a week, it was my first kind of film job ever. I had $10,000 taped to my chest, heading across Turkey, meeting with smugglers. I'm with the director. He's teaching me all these things, all these cameras. And so this is my first real documentary experience. And I fell in love with it. And I came back and I continued working for them and learned a lot of great stuff. But after about a year, it was time to move on. And that's where I knew that I wanted, the whole time I knew that I would, eventually, if I was going to fail, I was going to fail big. So I knew I wanted to direct. And my father's from Camden, New Jersey, where High or Low takes place.
Got it.
And I had no budget. I had some savings from my time on the Nat Geo film. Camden's only a 2-hour drive from New York. Because my dad's family is all from there, they all still live in the surrounding area. So I knew that all I was going to have to pay for was gas money. I had a strong enough backing in editing and filming and producing that, well, I didn't have a choice. I had to wear all the hats. But I knew that I could make this movie, and Camden kind of had this throughout my life. It just, from my dad's background there, I've kind of had this morbid curiosity with that city and cities like it. As you mentioned, like the post-industrial decline, the empty factories. It's America's most dangerous city, or one of them, for the last decade. So I thought, this is a story that needs to be told.
Now, so what was the budget of this film, if you don't mind me asking?
The budget was less than zero.
Okay.
So to start, I knew that
a camera and a dream, basically?
A camera and a dream. So I knew I was going to have to do everything to start, at least, before I could kind of show people that this was a project worth investing in. This was a project worth joining. So I had some savings, as I mentioned, but so there are still expenses. There's food, although my uncle was amazing with that. He's an associate producer on the film. He took great care of me, but there's still food, there's still gas, there's a lot of stuff that go into it. And so to make ends meet, there was a lot of tricks that I used. To start, I knew right away I could sell my blood. So I sold my blood plasma twice a week, $50 a pop. And that was more than enough to make ends meet to get going. And then I needed a drone, and then I needed another lens, a zoom lens, and then I needed other things. So it's not
a lot of blood.
But
it's a lot of blood.
So no, we were out of blood. The blood, blood bank was empty.
You literally sucked the blood out of you to make this film.
I sucked the blood out of me, yes. So the next step was I figured out that, and I had nothing to edit 4K. I made the mistake of filming, and well, it turned out fine, but I couldn't edit 4K on my laptop, so I needed a new laptop. So what I would do was, and this is frowned upon, but I would go to Apple and I'd buy their best system. And then I'd edit for 30 days straight, 29 days straight, and then I'd return the system. Because there was no restocking fee, there was no anything.
Right.
And so that's how I was doing the edit. And then the next 30 days, when I didn't have an editing system and I didn't want the local Apple store to become wary, I would shoot that whole time the next month. So what I would do...
You do 30 on, 30 off. You go 30 on, 30 off?
30 off. And then the next 30 on was for lenses. Do the same thing for lenses, camera body, steady cams at Best Buy, 29-day rental for free. So that's how that's how I had an amazing kit. I had, top of the line stuff rented. And I know, it skirts the bounds of efficacy, but I
look,
had to do it.
Sometimes you've got to, as the glorious Axel Foley once said, sometimes you've got to fracture an occasional law. And you don't break it, you just kind of bend it a bit. And look, you are working within those guidelines. Look, when you're starting out, you do what you got to do to make it happen. You're not the first person I've ever heard that did the Best Buy deal. I'm sure people listening now, they're like, wait a minute, you could do what at Best Buy? I'm like, yes, you can go to Best Buy, buy the best camera you want and use it for 30 days. I did not think about Apple.
Don't drop it.
Yeah, don't drop it. Don't scuff it. It's gotta be pristine because they will check. But if you're good, you've got a hell of a kit. I never thought about Apple because there was no Apple computers when I was coming up anyway. Not like that. There was no Apple stores, let's say. Right. So that's interesting. So that you would edit, and what did you edit in? Just out of curiosity, like Final Cut or DaVinci?
So I learned in Thailand on iMovie, and then I taught myself Final Cut 10, and then quickly moved into Premiere because I remember I was back in the studio one day and they were like, "What are you using, Final Cut?" I was like, "Yeah, what am I using, Final Cut?" I still don't know what I prefer or what's better, but now we did the whole edit in Premiere.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you would edit 1 month, then go shoot footage for another month, then go back and buy another laptop and edit for the next 30 days. How long did you keep this up?
Too long. And we used to use different credit cards. We used to use, like, I'd borrow my mom's credit card and then Venmo her the money, and then when she'd get the money returned on her account, and then we'd use my uncle's credit. It was bad. So, I mean, I probably did that on and off for about 8 months.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
So probably 4 rentals from each.
I like
out
the rentals.
The tri-state area.
I like the rentals. Yeah. I love that you've now just automatically just called it a rental, even though it is absolutely not a rental. But yes.
Yes. The zero budget rental.
Jesus. No, well, I mean, look, like I said, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to make it happen, and it worked. It worked.
Yeah.
Did you keep any of it ever, or is it all gone?
Yeah. No. So, I mean, we eventually kept, once we brought on a little bit of money, we kept stuff that I'm still using. Okay. But it also, I mean, it really taught, I think having that zero budget kind of made the movie what it was. We were going to, we would go to, if you go to YouTube, you can learn how to make a $1, $2 rig with PVC piping.
Oh, yeah.
And screws. And so we learned all that stuff too. We would buy all our stuff aftermarket on eBay. It would take 4 weeks to get there from China, so we could never have anything that we really needed. But so we used those tricks also. And then once we found out kind of our go-to kit essentials, we kept those. I got a laptop that could handle 4K, and so while we were coming up, we were, playing with some ethical boundaries, but we eventually got on the straight and narrow and did it the right way.
Look, I mean, I'm assuming you know who Werner Herzog is?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so Werner, did you heard that story of him with the papers?
Yeah, with forging stuff.
Yeah, so he literally forged his papers to get. When the police came to where he was shooting, he forged papers proving that he was able to shoot there. You do what you got to do, as long as you're not hurting anybody or literally stealing.
Yeah.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah. And we did a lot of that stuff too. I mean, Werner was one of my original inspirations. So yeah, we copied a lot of that stuff with just fake it till you make it. And if they're going to assume something going into a shoot, I guess I didn't tell them I was with HBO, but if they're going to call me the HBO boys, I didn't say it. Someone else said it. So like we faked it till we made it with a lot of those tricks.
Did you have an HBO shirt on, sir? Is that?
No, not HBO, not per se.
That HBO hat that you bought at the souvenir shop in downtown Manhattan.
Yeah, not per se.
Look, I could tell you stories of stuff I did. And when I was coming up, I mean, I think I've told this story on this show before, but when my first edit reel was based off of raw footage that I got from a European group of filmmakers that came into my commercial house that I was in Miami. And I grabbed all their footage and I re-edited. This was insane, like $1 million budget footage. Re-edited it all, slapped the Nike logo at the end of it, and I cut together 5 or 6 reels, and then I quit, and I went out with that reel, And people were like, they assumed that I was that guy. When they asked, I would go, no, that's just a spec spot. But if they didn't ask, there you go.
Yes, exactly.
It's, if you assume, that's up to you. It's like I always say, ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
Yes, shoot first, ask later.
Yes, as my entire last film was. And Sundance.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
All right, so you've sold plasma. You have skirt the line of the return policies over at Apple and Best Buy for 8 months, and then you finally got some money together. And then how did you? I remember you saying to me that you kind of mariachi'd Camden a little bit in the sense that you became very well known in the area. Can you tell us a little bit about how you kind of started having almost free reign in that town?
Yeah, so I think having no money helped us in a bunch of ways. Like, for example, I mentioned I didn't have a zoom lens. I was filming everything with a fixed lens, and so there are some really great shots where we wouldn't have gotten, and I had this incredible access to my characters, and because I had to be, I was a foot away from them, and it lends this kind of like raw, this pure verite almost that I wouldn't have gotten if I could afford a zoom lens. I had to go in within a foot of all my characters, and I think that kind of was the case in one way or another with a lot of these things. I didn't have a producer, I didn't have anybody, so I had to go to Camden, which is, it's one of the most dangerous cities in America. And I was terrified, and I had to go knock on doors and meet these characters where they were. So I would go, I'd go to town meetings and kind of find out who the town leaders were and the different advocacy groups. And then I would branch out I would go knock on the doors of where known drug houses, but I would be with one of those town advocates. So they would kind of give me an ounce of credibility.
It's like Donnie Brasco. They were Donnie Brascoing you. Like, he's a good guy. Yes, it's fine.
He's a good guy. Exactly. He's the HBO guy.
He's the HBO guy. It's the HBO guy.
Yeah, trust him. He's got the shirt. They really appreciated that. Camden has been a drive-by city, but also a drive-past city, a flyover city. One of the first titles for our film, actually, for a long time, it was titled Below the Brine. It's after a poem by Walt Whitman, who's actually from Camden, and it's about this world that exists below the brine, below the surface of the ocean that nobody ever sees. But there's life down there, there's heartbreak down there, there's society down there, and that's Camden. They build the retaining walls and highways so you can't see into it. No one goes into this place. No one talks to these people and learns their stories. So when I was knocking on doors, just because I had to, I didn't have a producer, they really appreciated that. And so the Camdenites...
how did you, because I mean, from watching portions of the film, like, they're doing not only illegal things but they're allowing you to come in, film this. Some of it's extremely personal. And yeah. I mean, there's characters who are high on screen. There are characters who are pregnant and high, and there's so many. Like, how did you get them to agree to do this? Like, what was in it for them to be able to allow such access to their lives? Yeah, and a portion of why they did that always comes down to an aspect of people want to be on TV. You know, the second a camera turns on, no matter what anyone says, it changes the dynamic. However, I think because I went and met them where they were, talked to them first, and really I didn't just come in for a weekend and film a bunch of people shooting up. I knew them, became really entrenched in their lives, night after night, day after day. They respected that I wanted to, and this is how I approached it, I wanted to tell their story, the story of Camden, the story of this opioid epidemic. I wanted them to tell it, so I wanted to see it through their eyes. And they right away kind of were open to that. And one of the first scenes in the motel where our pregnant character is injecting,
was my first kind of realization of what trust and what access they had given me. And that carried for the next year and a half. And after that motel scene, I received a very angry phone call from who turned out to be the protagonist of the film, Daryl, about filming with his pregnant, drug-addicted wife, long-term girlfriend. And he was very angry. He said, meet me the next day. I thought the film's over. Maybe my life is over. And he basically he pulled up. He said, listen, let me tell you my side of the story. And so that's where we learned his side of the story. Every morning he wakes up, he goes to search for Nani. He's trying to save his unborn child. And so when he said, let me tell you my side of the story, I think that's why I was so embraced by Camdenites, because nobody's given these cities a second look. No one, right. No one ever stops to say, oh, you're living on the streets on Heroin Highway, as they call it, in America's most dangerous, one of America's most dangerous cities. How did you get here? What went wrong? People think, who in their right mind says, I want to give up everything, lose my kids, my house, my car. I want to give that all up and live in a gutter for 10 years, if I'm lucky. No one stopped to ask the question of how they got there. They just treat them, as animals almost. And mm-hmm. So that trust was kind of achieved right from the beginning of me even coming to their doorstep. And then they just gave me the permission almost to give the means, the agency to tell their own story.
That's fascinating. You're right. These stories are a little too few and far between. And a lot of the stuff that's going on right now back here in the States that you have been safely in Iraq avoiding, which is Corona and what's going on with the death of George Floyd. I think that's one of the reasons why there is such uprising here now. Is because it's because of stories like this that these people have been handicapped from the moment they were evicted from their mother's womb.
Yes. 100%.
There's no doubt about it, and these stories are so important, and that's why it's so much more beautiful on the way how you did it. Which, like, if you told me, like, yeah, we had like 200,000-300,000, we had an Alexa, we shot with Cook lenses, we had a full rig. It wouldn't have. You can't make this movie like that. You need to. Right. You need to go to Best Buy and Apple and do what you did.
Exactly.
It goes with the whole story. Now, this is your first feature, right? This was your first feature.
Yeah, it's my first feature. It's only the second. My second credit. So I worked on that National Geographic film. So I was really. I'm still, of course, learning everything as I go. But that was my film school. That year and a half in Camden, that was my film school. You'll see, if you look at our Instagram, you'll see some funny things of a first-time director, but also there's so many stories of I had no idea what I was doing at the beginning, especially. You'll notice things in the film if you watch with a close eye that I can point out after you watch it. It's a first-time filmmaker. But we did do they did an amazing job of saving a lot in post, and it looks incredible. But there's some funny things that I learned the hard way.
But the question is, did you wear a director hat or a director T-shirt?
No, I just carried the chair around and just, that GIF where the guy just unfolds the chair and sits right there. So everywhere I went, I had my director's chair on.
I always make a joke because when I was first coming up, I had the director hat and a director T-shirt on because that's what just a pompous film student would do. So anytime I see a director walk on set with a director shirt on, I'm like, oh God, oh no, this is not going well. This is not going to go well. And every single time that's ever happened, I've never been disappointed. Let's just put it that way. So you submit your films to all these film festivals, right? And not only did you get it into Slamdance, but you also got some interest from South by of this last year. So can you tell me what happened between Slamdance and South by, and then how did it all work out?
Sure. So we really, I'm not the only young filmmaker on this team. It's really an inexperienced team of 4 people probably, still is, which I love. And now we're actually really good. So we really didn't really even know what we were doing going to festival season either. So we got into Slamdance. That was our first. Well, first we got rejected by Sundance, obviously. And then,
I mean, we all did. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It was our first, welcome to the show. And then we got into Slam By, which we were really blown away. And for those, we were unfamiliar. I was unfamiliar, but it happens the same exact week, the same time as Sundance. So actually, if you say it fast enough,
it's a Sundance. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Exactly. And honestly, a lot of people think, so we post on social media, and a lot of my university friends, they just assume I won Sundance. And I'm not going to correct them.
Again, HBO guys,
yeah. We're HBO guys who won Sundance. So we got into Slamdance, and it was an incredible week. But we had, Slamdance, deadline to accept was right around the same time that South by was, their deadline was for their notification deadline was. And in our minds, my mind at least, I would lean toward, not anymore, of course, but I was going to lean toward our premiere at South by. Just it has the big name, and just as a first-time filmmaker, I just was going by the name. Mm-hmm. So there was disagreement within the group. Eventually, we decided we're going to premiere at Slamdance. We ended up not getting into South by. So we're at these parties and everything, and we're retelling the story and how we chose to premiere at Slamdance. And it turned out that through various programmers, I guess, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but
the rumors on the street, the rumors on the street.
The rumors on the street that South by does not take kindly to Slamdance, especially if you're wanting to choose between the two. And we had gotten kind of a cryptic email from South by that before we got the rejection email. And so they knew we were choosing between the two. And we chose Slamdance and didn't end up being accepted to South by, which turned out, so we won grand jury at Slamdance. So
that's amazing.
It was definitely the best choice. And then a week after we come home, COVID hits, and South by is the first one to go. So it really was the right decision. So yeah, it all worked out in the end.
Now, what was your Sundance/Slamdance Park City experience like? Because you were like fresh off the boat. This is your first movie. You've never been. This is your first film festival, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like this is.
Couldn't even. I wasn't exactly sure I knew what a film festival was. Obviously, I thought of it more as like a market. And then my only background is the Entourage episode, which I watched, again right before I left.
Right.
And I'm a director. I'm going to a major film festival. I'm picturing a lot of Entourage stuff. And there was a lot of Entourage stuff. I mean, we got
parties,
amazing parties.
Yeah.
We had a great PR team that hooked us up. We went to like the Cinetic party. We went to the HBO party, of course.
Obviously, because you're the HBO guys. Yeah.
HBO guys. So we had a great time. There was, the hot tubs, the late nights. It was amazing. But then there was also the side. So that was the Entourage side. And then your film comes to mind at the corner of Ego and Desire. So for those unfamiliar, you shouldn't be. It's a great movie. Go watch it. But it's 3 young filmmakers go to Sundance to try to pitch their film, and everything kind of falls apart. And so we had a lot of those moments too. We're just first time everything, and I just didn't know anything. So there's a lot of mistakes made. What's a sales agent? Do you need one? We went in very, very
green,
excited but dumb, excited and green. So it was a brilliant mix of the Entourage episode and your film.
No, and I mean I've been there as you know. I've been at Slam and Sundance many, many times over the years, and Slamdance is an experience. And I love Slamdance. As you can see, I represent the Slamdance shirt all the time. I do love them. I always found myself, even though I was rejected from Slamdance, and I'll call them out all the time because Dan, co-founder, was in it, and I still got rejected.
Dan, yeah.
But to be fair, I think I said the word Sundance like 50,000 times in the movie, so they probably didn't want to promote Sundance so much.
Yeah, you should have gone with Slamdance.
Like we were talking about that earlier. We're like, maybe if I would have just said Slamdance, 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 they would have accepted it in a heartbeat. But of course, we always go for the girl that doesn't want us.
Yes.
The hot girl that teases us constantly. That's the relationship with 99.9% of every filmmaker ever, independent filmmaker ever.
And then we keep saying that, so South by was the hot girl that didn't want us, and then it got canceled. So every time we don't get one, we're like, well, that hot girl is about to go down because it's going to get canceled, and it keeps happening. So
yeah, God knows what's going to happen in the future. I'm still in the camp of I don't think Sundance is going to happen in 2021, not in the same way. I can't even imagine it happening, but we'll see. But you won, so you won South by, you won Slamdance. You won the grand jury prize at Slamdance. So that's a big deal. Yeah.
We were just, it was really just a dream. It was an absolute, I'll never forget when they called our name. Like it was, I blacked out just from the adrenaline. I'm not sure what I ran up there. I'll never look at what that acceptance speech was. I'll tell you that Alex, it was not good. It was. You were like, pot in mouth. It was bad, but it was a dream come true to win that. And then so that was our first festival. The first festival one of the first festivals of the year. And so from that we got waivers to maybe everywhere, and it was so strange being contacted to show your film. So we just this weekend we did our European premiere at Krakow in Poland, which is an amazing festival.
Awesome.
And we were, I think, one or if not the only North American film selected for competition, and it was online, which was a new experience. But so that was right off of, we actually got the news about Krakow right after the grand jury win. And then also we were accepted this past week. We were in this past week in Brooklyn, where we won Best New Director and Spirit Award for documentary feature.
That's so awesome.
And so that grand jury win that snowballed into everything. And we have a bunch of festivals coming up that are either going to go online or be canceled.
So I want to clear exactly, who knows what's going to happen. So I want to be real clear. So I want to bring this, and you've been listening to my podcast now for a while, and everyone who's listening automatically like, well, he won Slamdance, like he won the grand jury prize at Slamdance. So when the trucks of money came, did they unload by the pallet, or did they just dump it all on your front yard? How does that work?
They delivered it in their hands.
Little by little, just like a little.
The 14 quarters.
The 14 quarters that they gave you. Yes. I want people to just understand that just because you win the grand jury prize at a major festival like Slamdance, it does not mean that you automatically get checks. It's not 1994 anymore.
No. And we had that kind of lotto ticket dream, and I will stick by that. It is important to have a dream, but it's also important. And right. I'm so happy that I didn't have any money, so I actually had to build up technical skills along the way while maintaining that lotto ticket dream. When we won grand jury, I thought, here comes HBO again. Here comes the big deal. Like
Netflix is calling. Like, what's up?
Netflix, and we did, and we got all those calls, and it's a lot less money than you would think. A lot less money to any deal, any offer that you would think. There's no truckloads of money coming, and we found that out pretty quickly. However, I will say that it not only did it open up doors for further festivals, which is really, really important for a young team such as ours. Mm-hmm. And I know festivals, I learned this the hard way, festivals we can win the grand jury and still that's not going to move the needle on a higher. You could win 3 grand juries. It's not going to move the needle on a higher. It doesn't make sense. Like, people like your movie, but it's not going to move the needle on your distribution deal. So festivals really aren't going to do much for that. We found that out. But it really did. These festivals are great for myself and the team. Even so, I'm in Iraq filming now, and we have some really big names attached to this film. This is my second film I'm directing. And that's all from, I'd say 90% from these festival wins.
Yeah.
It lends credibility. So no, they were not, we're going to be lucky, in all honesty, right now to break even though our budget was so we kept it so low. Mm-hmm. And down the road, hopefully we're working on a narrative version as well. So hopefully that will drive interest that way as well. But it pays off in ways such as now I'm over here filming, as I like to call it, my real directorial debut, since I actually know what I'm doing now. And I couldn't have done that, and I couldn't have attached these names to it without that grand jury win.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Filmmakers need to understand that the film festivals, especially if you're a new filmmaker, oh man, film festivals are the best. Like, yeah, you got to go and do the red carpet and do the parties and meet other people.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's wonderful. Go to those seminars, go to those workshops, meet people, network. It's great for all that. Obviously, that's been put on hold right now for the next foreseeable future because of COVID. But when it comes back, it's still a wonderful experience to go through. But I am just constantly beating my audience over the head that it is not 1994 anymore. This is not what it was. They don't have the same kind of pull as they did before. But they do have a place in the ecosystem without question. Yeah. And I would have killed to go through your experience. Like, I've never gone through that experience. Like, I've been to hundreds of festivals and won awards and all that kind of stuff, but I've never won a grand jury prize at Slamdance, nor have I ever been at Slamdance. Or it's accepted into Slamdance. But that's amazing, dude. That's an amazing story, and I'm glad that you did it the way you did it, and you're trying to get this story told and get it out there. And it's not over yet. The story's still continuing. You still got to figure out how you're going to make money back with this, what type of distribution deal you're going to finally land on, if you're going to self-distribute. There's a lot of different avenues you can go down. Yep. So
yeah, definitely. It's exciting. It's still very exciting, and mistakes still will be made. But at least we have more people on the team who know what they're doing, a sales agent, good PR, good everything. So mistakes will be made, and it's still a learning curve. But it was definitely a great experience.
Awesome, man. I'm going to ask you a few questions to ask all the guests. What advice would you give a filmmaker wanting to break into the business today? Obviously, go to Best Buy and Apple and do your trick. But besides that.
Yeah. So I guess for advice for someone who did it like myself with zero film background besides Waterworld and as an English teacher. So,
by the way, a side note, I did have the screenwriter of Waterworld on the show, but he had done a documentary. I had never talked to him about Waterworld once. But I found out later.
That is a failure.
He's a complete failure. I have to get him back, Peter. I have to get Peter back on just to talk about Waterworld. But yes, I found out later after I interviewed him because we were just focused on his documentary that I didn't. But yes, so Waterworld is like your Godfather. It's kind of like your Star Wars.
It is my Godfather. Yes. So I guess advice for a real new. I was an English teacher, so I had my baseline was 0. So for someone, and you can right now as a brand new filmmaker, I mean, you can buy an amazing 4K, 5D or A7S. You can get those bodies for probably used for $1,000 right now. Even if you don't want to do the return trick, you can film 4K, amazing 4K on your cell phone, as everyone knows. So
look, like a Panasonic GH4, you can get that used for like $450.
Yep. And then you can also learn everything on. So not only did I learn the 3 different editing softwares just on YouTube, but still when I have a problem, I was trying to figure out how to pin a graphic in Premiere the other day, and I just Googled those words, how to pin da 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 in Premiere, and there's 50 tutorials how to do it. So really, all the resources are right there. The gear for the first time is available. So if you're a brand new filmmaker, just kind of do what I did. Just get a camera and go do it. Now keep your expenses low. So choose a story. Everyone wants to tell a story that really, really moves them, but meet in the middle. Do one that you care about, but it's also doable. So I stayed with family. I could drive to and from Camden. So yeah, I would say just kind of go do it. And there is this kind of, I don't know how to say it, there's a hierarchy in film, and a lot of the older generation, especially if you get into these editing houses that have been around for a while, they're going to want you to pay your dues. And I ran into that a lot. I was told after, I guess, 2 months that I had to pay my dues before, and I quote, I was allowed to sit at the big boys table.
Who said this? Like,
sorry, this was the job I was working. I won't say names, but basically, you're getting way ahead of your pay grade with your. I was bringing story ideas. I wanted to really go, and I was in reality, I was assistant to the assistant editor, coffee getter. So I was basically told to go, and I had skills. I really knew what I was doing. So I was told, and I quote, you can't sit at the big boys table yet. So I've kind of carried that with me forever. I think that this pay your dues thing is nonsense. I think you can go do it. If you don't have that $1,000, that $500 to get the camera, go do that.
Go sell your plasma. Go sell plasma.
Go say about your blood plasma. If you really want to learn, you can learn on YouTube. So there's kind of not that many excuses why you can't go do it.
And I want to just add something to that, because that's excellent. I agree that there is the old system of you have to pay your dues in order to play that game. If you want to play that game, you've got to pay your dues. If you want to play in those in other people's sandboxes, yeah. But then what you did is you still paid your dues, but you paid your dues in your own sandbox, creating it on your own project and learning along the way yourself. So no matter what, you're going to have to pay your dues, one way, shape, or form. But I would much rather learn it in my own world that I control and I have all the power in, and it's my own big boy table. Than playing in someone else's sandbox at the beginning.
Yeah, and I read a great quote somewhere. It said, film school has never been more expensive, and film gear has never been cheaper. So use that. And the reason these kind of pay your dues hierarchies are starting to shake is because anyone can kind of go out and make a film right now. I just went out and made a film. So I understand that they kind of want to hold on to this control they have. But as you said, go play in your own sandbox and make that sandbox something. And you can be sitting at the big boys table after not that much time.
I mean, you won the grand jury prize at Slamdance with your very first film, sir. So I mean, if that's not the big boy table, I know there's guys and gals who've been working 15, 20 years who've never gotten that opportunity. So there's something to be said about that. Now, what is the lesson that took you the longest to learn, whether in the film business or in life?
I guess I'm still definitely learning, especially during this lockdown. There is a lot of time to do a lot of stuff if you don't waste that time. So when I was wrapping up my time at this post house, I knew I wanted to go and direct something. But also at the same time, I was, physically addicted to every app on my phone. I went out 3 times a week in Manhattan. I just wasted time. I was buried in things that weren't going to benefit this dream I had to direct. And I realized that. And so I moved out of my Harlem apartment, Airbnb'd it, because somehow you can make a lot of money doing that. Moved back in with my parents. And I remember the first few times, and this is at age, so I'm 31 now. So I guess 2-3 years ago, I was too old to be living back with my parents. But I knew that I had to save up a little money to go do this when I eventually left the post house. So, and I remember when guests would come over, family friends, I'd, not come out because I was so embarrassed to be back at home. But I kind of retreated from everything. I gave up actually alcohol and partying for a year. I deleted all the apps on my phone, barely ever used my phone. And that might not sound like a lot, but you'll be surprised if you look at that screen time thing, how much time you waste. So I had so much time to dedicate toward screenwriting books, every movie that I missed out of watching because I wasn't allowed to have a TV. And I can now watch them with a critical eye. And I just learned podcasts like yours, all the no film school type websites. I just absorbed everything. And within not too long, I had enough skills to head to Camden. So I guess, and I'm still learning it, and this lockdown has made it extra, the issue is even more magnified because there just is so much time on my hands, lockdown in Iraq. But
that's the name of your next move, lockdown in Iraq.
Lockdown in Iraq, yeah. So I guess the lesson is that there is enough time to make this happen, whatever that dream, that end goal is for you. There is enough time in the day to make that happen. There are going to be some sacrifices, but as long as you're not wasting time, there is time to get this stuff done.
Now, and a last question: what are the 3 favorite films of all time? Besides Waterworld, obviously is one. So,
ooh, yeah, Waterworld's 1A and 1B. Let's see, 3 favorite movies of all time. Okay, there's a Swedish movie called Let the Right One In.
Yes, great movie.
Yes. Oh, it is absolutely. I don't like vampire movies. I don't like horror. Do not watch the trailer if you want to watch this movie, because you'll never turn it on. The trailer is nothing like the movie. But yeah, Let the Right One In is definitely top 3. And also, don't watch the American version. It's good, but not nearly as good as the Swedish version. Let's see, The Lives of Others, the German film. Fantastic film. District 9, I love the idea. So I love documentary, obviously, but I'm actually starting to move into narrative. I mentioned I wrote a screenplay for Higher Love, and that's moving forward. And so I really love the idea of mockumentary, bridging the gap between what's narrative, what's documentary. And so, yeah, District 9 is definitely up there for me. And I guess a close fourth, You Were Never Really Here is great. I just saw that.
Yeah, it's so good.
With Phoenix, really dark film. Yeah, so that's a top 4 for your top 3.
And I forgot one other question I have to ask you because you're such a Waterworld fan. Have you been to the Waterworld ride at Universal?
No, and I actually was. This is going to sound. I remember when I was talking about don't waste time, and you'll have a lot of time. I was wasting a lot of time the other day, and was researching Waterworld because it's actually, it deserves a laugh or two at its expense, but there's a lot of people who really do deep dives on the internet about this.
Oh, don't question, no question.
Yeah,
look, just let's be clear real quick about Waterworld. And this is a topic I haven't talked about in all of my episodes. Waterworld has never come up. But
what do you talk about then?
But Waterworld is honestly, yes, you absolutely can laugh at it. There is definitely things you can laugh about it without question. But it was a fairly successful film. It did well box office wise. It launched 2 rides at both Universal parks. It has a lot of merch that it's sold. Like quietly, it's not Cats. Let's just put it that way. It's not as bad as like Cats,
No.
you know, it's or anything like that. It's not Showgirls, because Showgirls is a perfect film, obviously. But
Yeah.
but so people might make fun of it, but it's not as, you know, it's not as it's not as bad as The Postman. Now, if you watch The Postman, that is a horrendous piece of film.
Right, and Waterworld certainly did well at my local video rental store.
Oh yes, so rented like crazy.
And I mean, I think everyone carries this kind of. For example, I don't think 6 months ago, a year, I would be on a podcast admitting to loving Waterworld, or I guess basically, I think everyone carries this kind of imposter syndrome. That they feel like they don't belong. And I certainly felt and feel to an extent that I don't belong. And I think it's natural for all humans to feel that way, but especially in the film industry, especially in artistic endeavors. And so while we're laughing about Waterworld, I don't think I would have talked about it, that I loved it. I would have made up something, you know, to make me sound like I knew what I was talking about.
So
and really, I don't.
Seven Samurai, Taxi Driver.
Exactly. Taxi Driver, these black and white Casablanca. I would have gone that route, because I think this imposter syndrome is really real, and it still is really real for me. But I think that everyone's got it, and you just got to kind of remember that. You got to remember that not only in this kind of guerrilla indie filmmaking, especially documentary filmmaking, where I really didn't belong. So I guess now I belong a little more than that. But
look, at the end of the day, we all have that imposter syndrome. I think we all have it at a certain level, different levels of it. I mean, I even, speaking to some of these big giant directors and writers, they have it. And they have $1 billion movies behind them, and they still have it. So it's in all of us. But I think as you get older, you start becoming a little bit more comfortable in your skin. So I have no problem saying that The Room is a fantastic film, and I would watch it not by myself ever, but with a group of people. That Showgirls is great. I could probably watch Showgirls by itself, because it transcends how good it is. There's a new documentary out about it, by the way. I don't know if you know that. There's a Showgirls documentary that they just broke down what Showgirls is. And I'm like, I still haven't seen Cats, but I'm actually dying to watch it, because when something is that bad, it will eventually transcend itself.
Yes. It's a morbid curiosity. The same reason I went to Camden.
Yeah. Well, Cats and Camden, we can't connect those two. I don't know how we connect those two. But you haven't. So you haven't gone to the Waterworld ride yet.
No. So yes, I have not gone to the Waterworld ride yet. And I actually just assumed what I was saying. I was doing a deep dive, and before that, I just assumed, why would that still be open?
Oh, it's everywhere. Of course, yeah.
It's still open. Yeah. So that's definitely on the bucket list for the next LA trip.
I saw it in LA, and I saw it at Florida when I was in Orlando back in the day as well. So it's still there. It's actually a fantastic show. I have to say, it's a fantastic show. I think you will enjoy it even more than most.
Definitely, for sure.
And then where can people find you? Find more about Higher Love and what your other project's going to be.
Yeah, sure. So I guess the best way to find, so for Higher Love, that's the feature documentary. It's Higher Love Film on Instagram, and then higherlovefilm.com. We post all of our screenings. We have a bunch of festivals coming up. The next 6 months at least, a bunch of festivals that will be online, which actually makes it more accessible for a lot of viewers around the world. Higher Love Film, the website and the Instagram. And then if you just go to the Instagram, you can, under the info, you can find me under the director, Hasan O. That's my Instagram handle. And then for the film I'm working on now, it's just briefly, it follows a certain sect of the Iraqi population is Yazidi. It's an ancient religion. Mm-hmm. And they're still so ISIS was brutal to everyone in the region in 2000 during their reign of terror around 2014, but especially brutal to this sect of Yazidis, and they took 3,000 to 6,000 of them as slaves, and 2,000 to 3,000 of those are still missing and in ISIS captivity, and no one's really doing anything. So I've embedded with a group of rescuers and smugglers trying to get those mostly women and children back. And because of the sensitivity of the material, we cannot, as of yet, put anything social media wise. But we are approaching that point where we can. So we'll definitely, if you follow the other page, the Higher Love page, or my personal Instagram, which I'd love to. I love connecting with fellow filmmakers, especially members of the tribe. I'd love to start dialogues on my personal Instagram page. So yeah, we'll update that with my current project as well.
Hasan, man, it has been an adventure talking to you. It's been a very inspiring story. I love hearing these kind of stories, man. I really, really do, because anytime I hear someone hustling without any understanding of what they were doing, it's even better. And that you, at the end of that, it wasn't a disaster and you actually created a fantastic film is a rarity. So what you have done is no small feat, my friend. Seriously. So congratulations on all your success, and stay safe in Iraq until you get back here, because here in the States, we're much safer than it is in Iraq. Obviously, we're good on COVID. There are no riots. That's all fake news. Don't worry.
Right. I'll bide my time to get back. Don't worry. And also, Alex, I wanted to thank you not only for having me on, but just what you do is incredible. I don't think.
Oh man, thank you.
I don't know if I'm here without your podcast coming on the scene in 2015, which is the same time I came onto the scene. And there's great resources out there, of which you're one of the best. So I'm proud to call myself one of the tribe, and I don't think this hustle would have happened without Indie Hustle.
Thank you. I truly appreciate that, and I'll pay you later for that. So thank you.
All right, sounds good.